But you did mention the patriarchy, so why don't we go into that? What is the patriarchy?
The system of beliefs held by men who are, overly in power, to basically just set their standard of what society should be. Mm-hmm. Based off their beliefs of,
Are they in power because they're men?
I mean, sure, probably.
Mm-hmm. And so what percentage of men are in power?
A lot. I don't know. That's a very specific question.
But I mean, do you think it might have more to do with like their class or status than the fact that they have a penis?
No, I think it usually starts with them having a penis. I think they will get ahead in life a lot easier if they're men.
Mm-hmm.
No. No. Men have it way hard. Men actually have to work to become something. We're just here. Like, to be quite honest with you, we could get into clubs without having to pay for shit. We could get bottle service without having to pay for anything.
But can we get paid the same as men?
We do. If we didn't, that'd be an issue.
What are you talking about? Women do not make as much as men.
If a woman cannot do the exact same amount of work as a man, you can't expect that woman to get paid the same. If a woman construction worker and a man construction worker, we're working right now together. The man is carrying 100 pounds of weight. The woman can only carry 50. Why the hell would that woman get paid the same?
Why? What about a man who's an executive and a woman who's an executive?
Is she putting in the same amount of work?
Yes.
Let's be real here. If that woman is an executive and let's say she gets pregnant, should she deserve the same amount of money as the man that's actually still going to be at work?
Besides, you're at the mercy of the firm's argument, which is, if it were true, that what you're saying is true, that women who are not in these construction jobs and this type of thing, but rather are in kind of comfy AC-related jobs like the men, and they're getting paid less than them, then why wouldn't a man create an entire firm of women and then destroy their competition because they're now paying their staff way less?
Yeah, why not?
Am I wrong that women get paid less than men? Because I don't think I am. I think that's pretty common knowledge.
But if that is the case, right? So this is what I'm questioning is the basis for this case, right? If it were the case that were true,
which it is.
If it is, then why doesn't a woman even or a man just hire a firm of these women and pay them less than the firm that are hiring men, because they would make a killing with an all-woman staff?
You tell me. I don't know. I'm not a dude. I'm not making that decision. If I hired a firm full of women, you bet I would pay them just as much as I'm not going to pay them less. That seems backwards.
But you would think a man would, right?
Potentially. I mean, I don't know. Who's been paying us less? I don't think it's women.
Well, if it's men, then why wouldn't a man just have a firm of all women and pay them less if they get the same amount of work out of them?
I mean, that's a question for a dude. I can't answer that.
Why couldn't you answer that?
Why wouldn't a man have a firm of all women and pay them less? I don't know.
I mean, because then they would destroy the competition who's paying the men more, right?
Okay, so, I mean, why don't we see that then, if that's the case?
Because it's not the case that men are making more in those positions than women are. If it was the case that you could pay women less to do the same job, then why wouldn't you just make a firm and pay all of them way less for the same job?
So you're talking about the wage gap, right? So why don't you tell us what your sense of the wage gap is? Because there's these numbers that get thrown around. Women make 77 cents on the dollar as compared to men. Is that what you're talking about when you say the wage gap?
Yeah.
So what is the number that you think it is?
It's around that.
Like 80 cents on the dollar?
Something like that,
Nick,
and then women of color make even less.
Yeah, Nick, we have something on that too. So two things, Nick. The pay scale website on the wage gap, and then there's also, so you just do Google pay scale, wage gap, and then also in the infographics folder there is the, there's the wage folder, and in it, you mentioned women, you mentioned in women of color. Mm-hmm. So Nick, you're going to pull up it's in the wage gap folder, the Asian women one, but it's not number 2. It's the one in the middle with the straight lines. Do the Asian women first, then we'll do pay scale. Okay, so you mentioned women of color. Actually, Asian women out-earn white men. This is the median weekly earnings of full-time workers, white men versus Asian women. That's 2 minority categories.
In higher paying jobs is what you're saying.
No, across the board. doing a comparison to comparison. So my understanding of how this is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They just take all the earnings of men, all the earnings of white men compared to all the earnings of Asian women. Now, these are all full-time workers, mind you. Now, the wage gap that you referenced earlier, that encompasses all the money that men bring in and all the money women bring in. So it could be making a comparison of a woman who has a part-time job as a barista, and part of that data is also comparing it to men who work on oil rigs who get hazard pay.
And then where are you guys pulling your stuff from?
Nick, you can pull up pay scale. Pay scale is a fairly, it's actually pretty left-leaning. It's a fairly reputable company. Can you scroll down, Nick? There should be like a circle chart. Scroll down. Okay. Can you scroll in on that one? You might even be able to right-click and I don't know if it's an image. The gender pay gap in 2024. So the uncontrolled gender pay gap, which is what you're talking about, women earn 83 cents for every $1 earned by men.
You're including like part-time and all that.
Well, this is where you're not controlling for anything. So it's all the money that women make, all the money that men make.
Okay.
But it's not factoring in for the fact that, for example, all men collectively work more hours than women. They're more likely to work overtime. They're more likely to relocate. They're more likely to work hazard pay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Wait, pull it back up real quick. The controlled gender pay gap. So this measures median salary for men and women with the same job and qualifications.
All men and all women.
All men, well, it's same job, same qualifications.
Okay.
So if you actually control for each of these things and you start removing these variances like hours worked, different job field, different choices, it shrinks down to 99 cents.
It's still below.
Right, but it's still...
You make a penny less than a man? Man, that's rough. But let me ask you this, just out of curiosity. I always wondered this question. Even if it were true that men who owned firms of some type or another did hire women at a lesser wage than they hired men, who the fuck cares? Why is that even a problem? If they're just like, I just don't want these fucking women to make as much as the men that I hire, why is that actually a problem?
I mean, it's a moral problem.
What is the moral problem?
I mean, that dude's like a piece of shit.
Why? Why would it make him a piece of shit?
Because he doesn't value women as much as he values men.
He doesn't value their labor as much.
But if it's the same labor?
Even if it's the same labor, he just doesn't value it as much.
Well, then I think that says something about how he values women.
Yeah, but how would it actually be immoral? Like, why would it be immoral, for instance, if you owned a business, you said, right? Mm-hmm. Why would it actually be immoral for you to be like, I just don't want to fucking hire men at all. I just don't want to even fucking hire them because I don't like their faces. Why would that even be actually immoral or problematic?
I think it's problematic because you're not considering different perspectives that can contribute to the work that you're doing.
But it's yours. Why do you need to consider other perspectives? Like, fuck the other perspective. It's your shit, right? Like, if you found a business, right, and you built it up for 10 years and you're going to start hiring people, and you're like, I don't fucking like women. I just don't like them. I don't like them, so I'm not going to hire any. I was thinking about this, and I was trying to figure out what's actually immoral about that.
I mean, I guess I just think it speaks to like the person's values, essentially, like that they don't.
John Smith donated $200.
Hey, John, thank you, man.
The reason these feminists and angry women are so upset is because they don't have a man to tell them to calm down and relax.
Are you going to do it, John Smith?
Calm down. Calm down. Relax.
Oh, my God.
Relax.
I think I just came.
What the fuck?
Oh my God.
But anyway.
What the?
Yeah, so I was just wondering if you could elucidate me why you would actually think that was immoral. I get that you wouldn't like it.
You're saying I don't like women. I don't want like that's such a like I don't think that's like good moral standards to just like it kind of relates to all the shit that we've been talking about with her and how she wants to hurt men and shit, right? Like it doesn't feel so far away from that.
Yeah, I mean maybe not, but let us assume that a man goes, a woman's labor, right? It's worth as much as a man's. And insofar as the labor she actually does and the labor he's actually doing, it's about the same. But they just cause so many fucking problems, right? They cause all sorts of issues. They complain a lot. They're always at the HR department because they got too flirty with a guy at work. They're just a pain in the fucking ass to deal with. They're just a pain in the ass. And if I have an all-male workforce, I don't have to deal with any of those fucking problems.
But you have to.
That
deal
seems
with
like
a
it's a
whole slew
really
of other
justified and
problems.
reasoned
But
reason.
are you saying that all women are like that and that women are just causing problems in the
I'm gonna
workplace? Because
assume-
I don't
I'm
think
gonna
that I've
actually
ever been like that in the
assume
workplace.
most women aren't like that.
Okay.
But I'm going to assume that there's enough of them that are, that you're still gambling.
You could
And
say
that if it's even
it's
20%, I can understand the rationale and could not say it was immoral for a person to be like, yeah, I don't want to fucking deal with all that. I literally
not
just
hire.
don't want to deal with it.
To not hire them.
Yeah, to just not hire
that,
them.
Yeah.
To just
if,
be
like,
like,
I have my
"Ah."
own business. If I mean, I don't plan on hiring anybody. I like just working for myself. But I could see that if someone was like, oh, I just don't want to hire them, I don't think that that's an issue. But if it was like, oh, I'm going to hire them, they're doing the same work, but I'm paying them less because I think that they're doing more complaints. Like, I don't know. I think that, sorry, I lost my train of thought. But I just don't think that like all women are just inherently like gonna cause problems or like these
I
complaints.
totally
Okay, that's why I wanted to
completely
make
100%
sure.
agree.
Yeah.
But let's say it's 10%, which is a lot. That's
Right.
a lot. So
Can you
that's
just fire the
that's
one
like,
who is?
That's like 1 in 10 women that you hire. Well, but the problem's already caused, right? The issue's already there. And you're like, in this factory, right, I can have a hot dog or a guy put the fucking hot dogs on the little pallet and then it goes up, or I can have a woman do it. They do it about as fast, they do about as much work, but I never have to deal with the,
Do you think
it's
there's
getting
a little bit
harassed,
of
I
inherent
was-
sexism though in that? Like I think there's like a little bit of
Yeah,
inherent
yeah.
sexism
But
in your words.
my question is not whether or not it's sexist.
Okay.
My question would be, who cares if it is? Why would that be a problem to be sexist under those circumstances?
I just don't
So in
understand
other words,
how
sexism itself, I'm not sure is immoral in and of itself if it's indicating a behavior that you're trying to avoid. So for
why
instance,
were you
wouldn't it be
bagging on her
sexist?
then?
Well, I'll explain. Wouldn't it be sexist, for instance, for you at night to walk across the street if a group of men are moving towards you?
Oh my god. Yes, because I would not change what I was doing if I saw a group of women. If I saw a group of men, I would be a million times more likely that I'm going across
So are
the
you
street.
sexist?
I think it just.
I mean,
Hang
for
on.
the,
Are you
I-
sexist?
Well, for my own protection, in that case, I would say yes.
For your own protection, in that case,
Yeah.
yes, I will be sexist. Aren't we saying the exact same thing?
Although mine could be life or death, yours
Hang
is
on.
not a life or death. Are
Wait,
those
wait.
different?
Or, right? It could be the life and death of your business, and yeah, that's
Okay.
basically to
It
the
is your
financial
livelihood, your family,
ruinations, your
right.
life, family, everything else. I agree that maybe the stakes are slightly higher from the physical aspect, but the principle's the same. I'm sexist towards this group because even though most people in this group aren't going to do this, enough of them will
Right.
that I feel like crossing the street probably a good idea. And do you think men would blame you for doing that? No. Fuck no. They're like, go across the street.
Right.
We know that there's predatory men. Fuck yeah.
Right.
So why would men get blamed for not wanting to hire women for that's my thing. That's why I'm like, is it immoral?
I have a question. You said
Yeah.
men do you're saying that, what did you say, 10 or 5% of women cause problems in the workplace?
Well,
Like,
we're just
there's a risk of
we're
it,
just
but
assuming it for
would you
like the
not-
sake of the sake of the hypothetical.
Would you not say the same thing about men?
No.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. If you
What
have
about
an
the
all,
men that can't keep it in their pants
you-
at work and
Yeah.
jealousy,
but are you, hang on,
competitiveness?
but are you going to have that problem if you have an all-male workforce?
But you're saying if
hang on,
I
hang on.
hire
But what if
Hang
it's
on.
an all-woman workforce?
Yeah, but if it's an all-woman workforce, then you have catty, backstabbing, fucking all
Same
sorts
with
of
men.
other
Do
issues.
you not have
You don't have
that?
the, oh, my dick is bigger
Listen.
than yours. Like, I sell more than
Do
you
you,
are.
then let's test this, okay? Do you think that at all female private schools versus all male private schools, there's more complaints from the students who are men or more complaints from the students who are girls?
I just
If you had to guess.
probably the girls.
Well, hang on. Well, wait. Why do you think that?
I think that girls are also just more vocal about it, though, their complaints. than men
So
are.
then they're going to
Men
cause more.
fight each
So hang
Yeah,
on.
exactly, men
So
fight
wait a
each other.
second. So if I have a workforce of men who have complaints but shut their fucking mouths about them versus a workforce of women who have complaints and don't, which one do I want to hire?
But I think the all-women workforce and all-men workforce have an equal amount of problems. They're just different.
Yeah, no. If you're saying that one of them's complaining constantly and the other one's not complaining constantly, that's already a huge
women
problem.
kind of a
necessarily
fucked
complain in
hypothetical,
the
honestly.
workforce. I think there's some level of professionality that women have when it comes to working, that they're just not going to be sitting there complaining 24/7.
Really? Well, let me ask you a
A
question.
competent woman, yes.
Let me ask you a question. And give me
Yeah.
your honest
Yeah.
answer. Okay? Let's assume you had two different offices that you could choose from. One office employed 300 women. The other office employed 299 men and you. Okay? 299 men plus you. Which office would you prefer to work at?
Which one's better? Or are you saying they're equal?
They're equal. They give you the same pay, right?
I don't think it really matters. I mean, at that
Yeah.
point, it would be
Which-
which one I would be happier with.
Yeah, which one do you think you'd
I
be
like
happier with?
more. Depends on who the boss is. How
The boss is a man in one.
In both cases?
No,
Or-
in the other one it's a woman.
I don't really think there's a difference. to
No,
me.
you wouldn't care?
I wouldn't care
There
at
would be
all,
no
no.
preference?
I mean, maybe if like the male one, because I'd feel like, oh, I'm kind of special, but like that's it, because I'm the only woman that was hired. Like but like.
And you don't think
besides
that would have anything to do with the fact that there would be way less catty bullshit, backstabbing, bitching, whining, complaining, telling you all about how such and such is a mean
Well, I
bitch
think
the second she walks out of the room to
I
you,
think you're
and you have drama clicks all over the place?
I don't disagree with that. What I'm saying though is men have equal issues.
No.
Just in different
Here's
ways.
what happens on
Well,
a
if you're
construction-
one
here's
woman
what
with a bunch of
happens-
men, like
I would
you're
feel
gonna-
way more
I
comfortable
would
with a
feel
bunch
more
of women.
safe.
I
I
would
would
feel more
feel more
connected to them. I would work
Here's
better. I would be
Here's
more
what happens-
motivated.
Here's what happens on a construction site, right, or something like this. They're all fucking exhausted from working their asses off, and they don't have time to whine and complain and click and do all that shit. They just don't. And inside of office spaces, sales spaces, things like that, yeah, there's a bit of that for men. But to say it's anywhere on par like it is for women, you talk to women who are in these sales jobs, and they're like, oh my God, these fucking bitches are awful. They're backstabbers, they're connivers, they click up. If you're not part of the clique, they're just horrible, insufferable.
I think that's like putting a very like big stigma on women. I don't think, especially in
It
a
is putting a
workforce,
very big stigma on, but the question is whether or not the stigma is deserved.
I think no. I think especially that's like one thing that I said. Like I would say I disagree with the podcast, that the women that are selected to usually be on this podcast are somewhat kind of like that and represent a different kind of like the more problematic side of women, which I agree a large majority of women can be
Have you
problematic.
ever talked to a hairstylist before?
I mean, yes.
Well, have they ever told you what it's like to work in the beauty industry?
I got my hair done 3 days ago. She was talking to me about how all the sororities girls come in and they talk shit all on each other, and she just hears it
All day.
all day,
Every day.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
but that's the thing is that's why the stigma exists. The stigma exists specifically because of the application. So what I'm saying to you is, if she's willing to cross the street based on her sexism, there's this low percentage of men who are actually predatory. In fact, almost every man you walk by in the middle of the night is not going to do anything to you. Do I blame you for crossing the street, though? Not really. Not really, because I can understand, I can rationalize in my brain why a woman would want to do that. And I'd recommend to my wife to do it. She's walking down the street in the middle of the night under some circumstance, cross the street.
Do you have
That's
a wife?
Totally rational. Yes, I have a wife. Totally rational to me, okay? But it's equally rational to me then to say, okay, if I had a firm, right, and there was some inbuilt sexism based around the stigma, would it be rational for me to only want to hire men? I think it's rational to say I only would want to hire men. I don't think it's immoral that a person would move down that thought pattern of I'll only hire X based on social stigmas, which can cause serious problems to their business for their own protection. That's all I'm saying.
I don't even disagree that the stigma is not partially deserved. It is.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to admit it.
Yeah.
Like, all of us have gone through high school. You know what girls are like there. It's not like it's partially deserved, but I think it's
that Mean Girls shit, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with it, but I also think that there's a good majority of girls that aren't like that.
There's plenty of men with the mean girl mentality too. I mean, I work with, I would say, equally men and women, and usually it's the men that are starting the problems. And all the women that I work with have acknowledged this. Like, we're all really, really cool. We have our problems every now and then. But I would say, like, mostly it's the men that are causing problems, and they are just equally as catty. And maybe you're basing this off a standard of men pre-social media, perhaps, But I think with the way that men are socialized today, a lot of them are mean girls.
I think it's also a big thing is that men probably have less problems with men than women have with women, if you get what I mean.
Totally agree.
Like men.
So
and
hang on.
wom-
So that would be a justification for stigma, though.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but also in a workplace where it's men and women, I feel like there'd be less problems than having a full male staff or a full woman staff.
Well, then answer me this. Do you think that there's less problems socially if you send kids to an all-boys school and an all-girls school than if you put them in a co-ed school?
I think co-ed schools have less problems.
They don't.
I was
Well,
gonna say, I
additionally,
think
it's
non-co-ed
different
schools
kinds.
have less
Way.
problems.
That's also because they're private schools, more funding and more, the public schools tend to
You
be.
have
But I
private
think
co-ed
the
schools you
same
can compare it
sex,
to.
yeah.
It would be different kinds
So
of
even if
problems.
It's different
though.
kinds of problems.
Okay, let's go through what you think these different problems would be.
I think women tend to, yes, have more catty drama and play more of a mental game with each other, but men are more likely to have physical altercations
but
over
men
something
like that
stupid.
shit.
Exactly, and women like
Women like it too. I think that's
I like
I
hearing
agree.
drama.
Girls
Women
like to
it
be catty. They like the
You're
drama.
What's wrong with
making
that?
every point for me right now.
Well,
I
yeah, 'cause
totally
we're not-
agree. So
we're not
wait,
disagreeing
so
with
men
you
enjoy
necessarily.
being violent with each other. Totally agree. Couldn't
There's a
agree
reason
more.
the UFC
Women
is a
like
thing.
being conniving catty bitches with each other. Couldn't
I
agree
don't
more.
think that all
I think
women-
catty
don't think
bitches is a little bit absurd.
So
I think
what's
that's
the
a little
difference?
extra.
I'm not
Hold
sure.
on, hold on.
Not
I want to
sure.
make a point. What's the difference between me being violent towards a man, but men being violent towards each other and making it okay?
They're
do you
both
mean?
bad.
They're okay, fair enough. But why is that? Like you're saying, like men just like this shit, like,
it's like-
and you're justifying it.
It's
They're
almost
violent by consent.
Yeah. There's a reason why things like the UFC
And as long as they're
exist.
violent by
fighting each other by
consent,
consent.
it's all
Yeah.
good with you, right?
True.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want as long as it's by consent. So anyway, the point is though is that if I'm looking at the standard of understanding why you would want to cross the street, you'd have that innate sexism, which is
Yes.
put in you,
Yeah, right.
that this person potentially could harm me greatly. Then all I'm saying is that I understand why it is that men would have the same exact feeling the opposite. This woman could destroy me. I understand why men would adopt the I don't go around women without another man or another woman present who I trust, or I don't go to private lunches with women unless there's a woman with me, or I don't go around women without my wife. I totally understand that. It makes a lot of sense to me.
It does make more sense to me now. I mean, I guess it was not something I had ever thought of.
Yeah.
But having this conversation, it definitely like is like there's things connecting in my brain that I'm like, ooh, that is really interesting and like not a perspective I've thought of before. I think it makes me.
Once you absent the propaganda and you just have the
Right.
conversation.
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah. I'm like,
interesting
this
how you
is
say
yeah, it is interesting. I think as a woman who has broken out of that, like catty, like, because I would say like as in high school, I would like say that I was one of those mean girls. I was trying to get at the top of this food chain, whatever. And since growing out of that, leaving
It's
people
super highly competitive too, right?
Oh, so competitive, guys.
Yeah.
I don't think I won. But like I went through a lot of growth, especially in my early 20s. I like moved away, you know, and it's like I went on a very like spiritual path of growth out in nature, and like so hearing that, like it is disheartening only the fact that like I don't believe that in a workplace I would cause problems. That like let's say that would be like my dream job, but like someone is only going to be hiring men, I'd be like, no, wait, but like I promise I'm not going to like I wish that I would still be able to get that chance to prove myself.
Sure.
You know?
No, I
that's the only thing, but I do understand what you're
Yeah, I
saying.
understand, but that
Yeah.
would be the same way that the men walking down the street who were just walking over to
Right.
talk to you.
He's like, I
would
just
wish,
wanna prove to
I just
you."
want to prove to you that I'm not a horrible
And I, like,
predator.
have my-
yeah, you got your
Right.
mace ready, everything
Right.
else, right? But
Right.
I was just trying to prove, and you would rather go, I could let you prove it and take the risk,
Right.
or I can cross the
That
fucking
is
street.
really interesting. I'm like, that's really interesting.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, that was
Argumentation
good.
by
Right?
Andrew.